Welcome back. I hope you've enjoyed this Maniac marathon of the three Maniac cop movies, Maniac 1980, and now the remake from 2012, Maniac. This was not planned. This was not intentional. I just got very interested in the fact that I accidentally watched two movies from the same director, found out he directed the third movie, and then also happened to direct a movie I've heard about, or heard things about. It all just kind of fell into place, and then I remembered, oh yeah, in 2012 there was a remake that people seemed to really like, and I've never seen the original or the remake, so much like the new Puppet Master movies, now is as good a time as any to check it out. So Maniac from 2012 feels like this weird passion project from everyone involved. It seems like their respect for the original source material is immeasurable. It feels like this doesn't feel like a money grubbing remake. This doesn't feel like a RoboCop remake. This feels like they wanted to remake this and put enough of a different spin on it with still very much the same similar beats to the original, to the point that the victims' names are the exact same in the original and the remake, but give you just that little bit of edge to our killer, which is where the monkey paw curls, which we'll get into. But who is playing our killer, you may ask? Elijah Wood. Apparently Elijah Wood really wanted to do this. From what I understand and was reading, he was very much, he produces a bunch of independent horror movies now, so this just kind of makes sense to be like the gateway to him doing what he's doing now. He wanted to be in an independent horror movie, and they're remaking Maniac, which apparently Elijah Wood either adores or has a lot of respect for, because Elijah Wood is, I saw some people saying that he's bad in this movie. I think he's given this his all. I don't think he's as good or as creepy as the original actor for the Maniac, but Elijah Wood is putting you can't say that he didn't put the effort in. He's 100% in this, for better or for worse. He's in it, and I applaud him for that. I think he's really good in this. Elijah Wood, for those who maybe don't know, for some reason, I guess you're under a rock, was the star of the first three, and debatably only three, Lord of the Rings movies. He was Frodo. I'm not even gonna say. Oh, he was also in Spy Kids 3D. He's the guy. This movie, and I'm gonna butcher your name. And if you're watching this, I'm very sorry. I'm going to say now, to cover my own ass, I thought you were wonderful in this, and I thought you did a great job. And I loved your character, and I think you brought a lot of depth to Anna, that she wasn't really given in the original. She was given more depth than all the other girls in the original, just to cover my tracks with the film bros out there. I just feel like the Anna in the remake was given a lot more to do, and I thought that you were great. Now, I'm going to try to pronounce your name, and I'm sorry. Our female lead for this movie is Nora Arnezdir. She is French, and I know how much people would like the French language to be said correctly. Unfortunately, I'm a bumpkin, and I'm sorry. She has starred in Safe House and other French cinema that I did not want to write here because I already embarrassed myself enough trying to say her name. I did not want to say the names of movies. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, and whatever you want, I gotcha. In terms of remakes, there are three definitive ones, and everyone knows them. I don't even feel like I have to say them. This was a minor discussion I was having in the comments of an earlier video. The three definitive remakes are John Carpenter's The Thing, The Fly, and the 1988 The Blob. All remakes of 50s B movies, all horrifically gory remakes of those 50s B movies, all significantly better to the point that they outright just replace the originals. This movie, along with, I want to say, Evil Dead 2013, fall right in line of being as good as the original, but not replacing it. Able to comfortably sit and ride that fine line right next to each other. If somebody says that they prefer the Evil Dead remake to the original Evil Dead, I will understand. I prefer the original Evil Dead to the Evil Dead remake, but I do think that the Evil Dead remake is a better made movie. The original Evil Dead is a bunch of college graduates who just wanted to make a horror movie with whatever money they had, and that is so fucking charming that it's in its own orb. It's in its own little area, whereas the Evil Dead remake is a movie that is basically the movie that if Sam Raimi had the budget I feel like the original would have been more closer tied to. So together they ride this very fine line of like, I think they're neck and neck and just as good as each other, but neither one outright replaces the other. Maniac, 1980 and 2012, I think also ride that fine line. If somebody tells me they prefer the remake to the original, I will kind of get it. I think the original does some things better, and I think the remake does some things better. And I think they perfectly balance each other out, whereas in my monkey's paw curling analogy, I wanted more on Frank. I wanted to know more about his abusive childhood, why he goes after women, and if he's really even conscious when he's murdering somebody. This movie's gimmick, and I'm gonna call it a gimmick, but I don't mean that in the derogatory sense, because it is so well done that there were moments where my brain turned off and I forgot filmmaking techniques and was questioning how they were getting these shots. Then I realized, like, logistically how you would do these and whatever, but for a little bit there, I was able to turn that bit of my brain off and just like fully believe what I'm watching for just a little bit there, which is impressive. This entire movie is played POV. You are Elijah Wood. Congratulations. The entire movie is shot through Elijah Wood's eyes. So every time he's murdering somebody, you are up close and personal in like real space as to where he would be to the victim, which means even more so than the original, we are getting graphic depictions of the horrible, horrible, horrible acts that he's doing. And once again, much like the original, it doesn't try to glorify the violence, and it is so fucking disgusting that it works and rides that fine line, but I think it rides it perfectly fine of like, I don't think this movie would be considered a danger. I'm thinking of this audience that blames video games for real world violence. I'm thinking that audience. I think this movie and the original do a good enough job of portraying everything as realistically as possible and as brutally honest as possible without glorifying how violent everything is, which in turn, for me at least, made me disgusted. I think that's really well done. So what we get in this movie is, because everything is shot POV, point of view, you're Elijah Wood, congratulations on your transition, we get to see the world kind of break around him. Visions that he has and things get kind of blurry and everything kind of just like fades. So while I wouldn't say he's not conscious while doing these murders, there's definitely a moment after where very few times the camera leaves his sightline, where it's out of his point of view. And in those moments when the camera kind of just like ethereally swings away from him, I feel like those are almost illustrating how in that very moment, Frank is his name, in that very moment, Frank is no longer like in his body. He is disassociated so hard with what he has done that we are getting an artistic representation of that, of the camera like ethereally floating away but keeping him in frame until we're right back into it, and then it's normal business as usual. So it's kind of an answer to my question in the original. He's there for the murders. It seems after he has like a moment of something, whether it's disassociation or honestly even like self-reflection, like what something happens. So it's there. The other small answer we get a little bit more about his childhood, but it's not really what I was expecting. His mother would just have sex with random people in front of him, and these scenes are uncomfortable and weird because we're watching this woman have sex from the eye line of a child, so everything's shot up, if that makes sense. And it gets even weirder than, not that I don't think anything was in frame, obviously I don't think the kid was on set, but that's also when the camera breaks eye line and we see him as a kid watching, and she's well aware that he's there, and I think the implication is that she was also a prostitute, which is probably also why he goes after prostitutes in the original. I'm not viewing this Frank and that Frank as two different characters. I'm kind of creating an amalgamation of Franks to kind of come to a conclusion of what I want from these characters. And the issue is, now that we know a little bit more about him and like what kind of drove him to be this way, now he's a little less interesting. And that's the unfortunate thing, is I can't fault the movie for that, and I can't fault me for wanting to know that, because it's the same problem that you run into with Michael Myers, where that first movie, he is just a blank slate. He's just a guy who escaped an insane asylum, and he's murdering. For what reason? We don't know. Is he a force of nature? We don't know. Is he invincible? We don't know. Why is he choosing to murder these people in this specific location? We don't know. Then once we get to Halloween 2, we get more explanation on Michael and his backstory. And by the 6th movie, he's like in a fucking being controlled by like a pagan cult, and Paul Rudd is there. And at that point, all the mystique, it's all gone. I don't care who Michael Myers is anymore. I don't want to know anything more. Stop it. Just let me live. Stop telling me. So yeah, that's kind of the issue we run into here. Is now that we know a little bit more about him. But it's also not really a hindrance to the movie, because it's not like what we're seeing now that we know a little bit more about him isn't horrible and disgusting and awful. It still is, and it still makes you feel like shit. I respect it for that. I would not say that these are the same movies. I would say they're very similar, and I would say that the remake is done out of love. This again does not feel like a money grubbing sequel. This feels like everyone involved in it has a deep respect for the original Maniac and wanted to do a remake justice, and play with perspectives of what if we had a whole movie, and this was years before Hardcore Henry, I think that's what it's called, came out. So we're playing with the idea of what if the movie already follows a serial killer as our main character. What if we went that one step further and made you sit basically Gundam Mecha style in their head and watch as they're doing all of this horrible shit in up close and personal detail. I appreciate that a lot. I think with every positive I have about this movie, it would have pushed it to being better than the original for me. However, there's one tiny little nitpick that I have, and then we're gonna get the fuck out of here. Tiniest little nitpick for me that kind of ruins it is the quality of the movie itself. And I want to derail and I want to talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre for just a second. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is shot on cheap, gross, nasty fucking sweat-covered film. That film, when it gets restored to the best of their ability, because they obviously, to like not ruin the picture, they can't get rid of the imperfections in the film stock itself. So when you can clearly see, I don't think this is in the movie, but I'm just going to use this as an example. If you were watching a VHS rip of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and there was just like a weird black splotch for a frame, probably wouldn't even really notice it. Maybe on the DVD you'd notice it. As we keep getting like 40th and 50th anniversary restorations, the film gets more clear. We've gone from standard def, below standard def VHS to standard def DVDs to HD Blu-rays to now 4K Blu-rays. And every single time that they up-res this movie and restore it, it gets more and more disgusting and uncomfortable, for me at least, because now that black splotch that was there, that maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't on the VHS rip, on the 4K, if you pause that frame, that's a dead fly in the gate. Obviously, I don't think that is a thing in it, but I'm using this as a large example of imperfections in the film stock itself, because there's hairs and there's dirt and there's grime and there's shit just on the film itself as it's running through that gate, capturing the images of what's being shot, and you can't go in and digitally remove that. You could, but you'd be an ass, and I would hate you forever. James Cameron, your AI upscaled fucking Terminator 2. Fuck you. Make your stupid fucking Blue Cat People movie, you old bitch. Anyway, the issue then is now Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the VHS is no longer this little hunky-dory slasher prototype movie. On 4K, it is now horrifyingly real-ish. And I don't mean like the acting is real or the events of what's happening are real. I mean, you can feel what the weather was that day because of how gross the film looks and how sweaty everyone is and just how miserable people look now that everything's been so heightened in detail. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has a completely different feel depending on what platform you're watching it on. The reason I got into all that, Maniac, I believe, was shot on 16mm, and through Underground Video, don't remember the boutique that is distributing it, I will look it up, but through whoever is distributing it, they have restored that video in 4K. Now what you get is the same feeling as that gross, grimy, yucky film that was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You get that in Maniac, and that just helps to heighten everything so much more. Everything has a thick layer of grease now. Like it is no longer a movie about a greasy, sweaty guy murdering women in horrific and gruesome ways. It's that, and with like a thick layer of sweat, grease, piss, New York smeared on the film. And that's a feeling you can't replicate without real film stock. So to come back to the remake is definitely shot on high quality, high def HD cameras for 2012. That's the issue. We have come quite a bit a ways from high def top of the line digital cameras in 2012 to high def digital cameras top of the line red Phantom 8K and whatevers in 2025. So there's, I don't want to say digital artifacting, but everything's a little too sanitary. With the digital video, everything's just a little too sanitary, and it's not as greasy and yucky looking. What's happening on screen is greasy and yucky, but the vibe and the feel of the film itself is no longer a point in that yuck. So that's like that minor discussion and that minor nitpick led to like a 5-minute discussion on shit that didn't even matter. But that's one negative I have personally, because it's missing that feel. Overall though, I would like to end this because I've been talking for too long. Maniac 2012 is great. Maniac 1980 is great. I think together they perfectly ride the line together of being as good as one another. What 2012 does better than 1980, 1980 does better than 2012. It is a perfect balance, and I think everyone involved should be proud of what they've done. Maniac 2012 on the Schlockometer, not even, again, on the real movie-o-meter, 4 out of 5, same as Maniac. I think they are right in sync with each other. I think they're both same level. But yeah, tune in tomorrow for possibly a French movie, maybe, if I decided to do it. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, we actually see her get away. Get hit! Get hit! Yeah! Yeah! Oh,